Direct from Fort Meade, Maryland, this is DINFOS Live.
So we're live in 5 seconds.
Hello and welcome to DINFOS Live. I'm your host, Major David J. Murphy, an instructor with the Defense Information School. Thank you for joining us on this, our last ever episode of DINFOS Live. I'm happy to have you here for this show, to watch it with us, and to hopefully ask some questions, because we've got a great panel on the show today to talk about what? Mobile training teams. That's right, you'll learn all about what mobile training teams are and how you can potentially use one to enhance your unit's capabilities. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and meet our guests. Hello guests, how are you doing today?
Great.
Well, thank you so much for being here, really appreciate it. Before we get started with, of course, the questions, and we really want to know about the mobile training team, what it's all about, we want to get to know who you are first. So first, please start by telling us your name, your position within DINFOS, and a little bit of your history and background with public affairs.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Mel Weatherspoon. I am the DINFOS Mobile Training Program Manager here at DINFOS. I've been doing this job almost 5 years. And before that, I was a Navy mass communication specialist. Did almost 26 years in the Navy as a mass communication specialist. And I've been an instructor. I've been in uniform, I've been a contractor, and now I'm a government civilian. So now I'm pushing about 32 years of military public affairs.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Devuyst. I am an instructor in the Mass Communication Foundations course here at DINFOS. So I teach graphics, photo, video, public affairs, and writing. Mostly to students that are just out of boot camp or reclassing. Really enjoy that job. My background is with the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard for about 11 years where I did public affairs. Started here at DINFOS back in about 2011 and was really excited to come back. And now when I'm not teaching, sometimes I get the opportunity to work with Mel. She'll send me out on a mobile training team or one in-house, but we'll talk plenty about that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get right into it. What is the mobile training team all about?
So the mobile training team actually takes DINFOS beyond the brick and mortar building and takes the training out to the fleet in the field, takes the training to those units out there where they need it, when they need it, and helping them with operational readiness and just filling the skill gaps that potentially exist within units. We can do training virtually, we can do training in person, or we can build a hybrid of that to really meet the needs of the client. The big things over the last 5 years that's really expanded is our ability to deploy the intermediate public affairs specialist course and the visual information management course, and I'm potentially working on a couple more. We'll see what happens. Spill me water. The beauty of live TV.
I know, right?
So that's really the exciting things that are happening in the mobile training world. And then also we work with the combatant commands and security cooperation officers around the world where we can train our international partners and allies with mobile training around the world.
That's amazing. That's great. And you've been on a mobile training team mission. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I've got to experience a few different approaches to mobile training. One was actually out in person in San Antonio. I got to be a part of a week-long, basically, writing workshop. So we brought in folks from Lackland and Randolph, and there were some Army people involved as well, and just had to sit down, practice our writing. I learned some from them. I was given tips and editing and just some time to really focus on writing, which can kind of be put by the wayside with all our other public affairs missions. So that was great. I've also helped out with some of our in-house mobile training, which sounds a little complicated, but no, we had some people come over from one of the defense agencies and were able to just have sort of a one-day communication planning exercise. And then I've done some virtual as well, where we had folks from the Defense Health Agency come online and we just talked through some of their issues. And it was a lot of like unit public affairs representatives who were doing this work collaterally and just had a lot of questions, and we were able to talk through processes. So I've had fun doing a few different things with Mel, with the MTTs, and really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And of course, you're the best person to not only lead this program, but also lead DINFOS Live, because DINFOS Live, in case people didn't know, is really an offshoot of the mobile training team program, right? You were part and parcel responsible for creating this program. So can you tell us kind of what into the creation of DINFOS Live, and how did it sort of augment and support the mobile training team?
So oddly enough, as I was saying earlier, I've been with this program almost 5 years.
Wow.
So I started as the program manager on March the 2nd of 2020. Oddly enough, 10 days after that, we went into quarantine from COVID. So at the time, I had a meeting with the commandant, and I was like, sir, okay, what's your definition of mobile? Because I'm not going anywhere in the middle of a pandemic. So he just kind of gave me free rein and said, I don't know, Mel, you tell me what your definition of mobile is. And so I just started reaching out through the network that I have, started coming up with some different ideas on how to get training to folks, since many were quarantined, working from home. And in the middle of all that, I started to see a trend in what people were asking to teach, or asking us to teach. Also, I am a big advocate of Pavilion. If you don't know what that is, it's our online learning platform. It's awesome. I started really working with them and starting to see the searches that were coming in this new platform, Pavilion, were really lining up with what folks were asking me with mobile training. So we kind of put our heads together and we came up with this idea of, hey, in the middle of the pandemic, why don't we stream some training to the fleet in the field? And lo and behold, now is born DINFOS Live.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that's great. And again, thank you for originating this and giving me the opportunity to lead it for the last few years. It's been a pleasure and an opportunity that I couldn't have asked for, from anywhere else. Wonderful opportunity. So let's get back to talking about mobile training teams now. If someone's watching this program and they think to themselves, this mobile training team thing, it sounds right up my alley. How do they go about requesting, the DINFOS services to come to their units?
Well, the first thing I will tell you is the best place to start is on the DINFOS website.
Okay.
If you go to the DINFOS website, which I think is dinfos.dma.edu, under the academics tab, if they scroll down, they'll see mobile training. Our point of contact information is on there. But the big thing about the mobile training team, if folks are really looking to increase their readiness and their professional development of their folks, because it does cost a lot of money to send people back here. And oftentimes you can't send your whole unit back here. So the beauty of the mobile training teams is we can take tailored training to the units and teach in a collective environment. So your entire unit can potentially be training at the same time with the same topics. Wow. Now the big catch there is the units and the organizations really do need to do an analysis of their skills, maybe looking at skill gaps, and getting back to us and saying, hey Mel, what we learned from the folks in San Antonio is there really is a writing skill gap. So they come to me and say, hey, we really need some writing training. We do not reinvent the wheel. DINFOS has world-class curriculum. We look at what we already teach, try to put it together in a tailored schedule, and really get after those skill gaps that the units need to fill potentially before an exercise, before a deployment, but really getting to the heart of maybe where they're lacking in their team.
Okay, great. So if I'm seeing this right now and I want a mobile training team next week, right? The week before Christmas, is that possible? And if not, what is the kind of timeline or advance time you need to actually set up a mobile training team?
I would love to do some training before Christmas. However, Mel's got some plans for the holidays, so that's not going to happen.
What if Santa asked you for mobile training team support before Christmas?
Okay,
right?
I think I have the internet package on my cruise, so maybe Santa. He's a VIP, maybe. So with that, it really depends on what they're asking, where they're asking us to go, and how in-depth the training is. Yeah. Now, going back to something I had said earlier about deploying IPASC or VIM, we program some dates in a year in advance that I can sell or market to the organizations out there. But we're on a waiting list. We have people waiting into fiscal year 26 already for VIM and IPASC.
Wow.
But if it's a tailored training, what really needs to happen is we have a lot of coordination meetings to figure out what it is we're going to be teaching, how many instructors do you need, and we work with the unit's schedule as well as our instructor schedules, because I don't have a team that's a dedicated mobile training team.
Right.
I work with the instructors here all over the schoolhouse.
Sure.
Because they're the experts. They're the one teaching it day in and day out.
Yeah.
So we look at when their availability is and when the unit is available and when they have funds, and we work hand in hand to figure that out. So
Wow.
I would say a virtual event doesn't take as long to plan that ahead of time, depending on if it's are we speaking at a conference? Are we speaking at a weekly or monthly training event via Teams or another virtual platform? That's a lot easier to do and usually can happen a lot quicker.
Yeah.
For example, I'm working on U.S. Army Pacific. I'm working on an event with them that's out in Hawaii. Again, there's some things that need to take place to get us out there. It takes a little bit more time. If we're going to go international, now we have passports potentially, getting approvals, visas to get over there. It takes a little bit more time. So
absolutely.
It really depends. That's the real answer.
Absolutely. No, of course. When you had to get ready for your mobile training team event, how long were you given for that?
It's hard to even think.
Or how much time was needed to get ready for that?
I had a good bit of time for the San Antonio trip, just because there was a lot of travel involved. I think a couple months maybe. So that wasn't too difficult. It was my first time actually traveling as a civilian since I had been out of the Coast Guard. So figuring out all that was kind of fun. But I'm up and running now. So yeah, I had plenty of time. It was writing, which is something that I'm a subject matter expert in writing here at the school. I'm helping with some of the course rewrite stuff. So right up my alley. Didn't take too much. I had the lessons ready, so that was nice. Some of the other things, like the digital opportunities that have come up, the online stuff, was a little more off the cuff. Public affairs, it depended on what they needed. So we just kind of came in flexible and ready to hear their concerns and where their shortfalls were, or where they were struggling to connect with their audience, and just kind of spitball with them and see what works for us, what we've seen work in the past. And it's been a really cool way to sort of connect with the active public affairs community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, for someone who might be watching this and might not be fully convinced that the mobile training team, is right for them, or that the program brings value, can you talk to me, why is it so important that DINFOS has a mobile training team, and ultimately, what does it bring to the military communicator community?
Well, I think it expands the DINFOS mission, like I was saying before, beyond these walls.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can't come back here.
Right.
And then, like I was saying before, it may just be one skill set that you really need refreshed in, that we can help. There are a lot of different training opportunities off the shelf, different organizations, and they cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
If we come to a unit, it's travel per diem only.
Right.
For the instructor.
Yeah,
If
no.
we do Teams calls, it doesn't cost them a thing.
Right.
So I think it's where the value is you're getting the same training as if you would come back here, but maybe you're waiting to get a seat, but there's something that, like some kind of project you're working on and it requires infographics,
Right.
but you're still waiting to get a seat. We
Yeah.
can help you out.
Sure.
If you're getting ready to deploy and hey, you know what, we've been putting out a lot of products, but our lighting, we just really could boost up how we do lighting and audio for our projects. Let's get a mobile training team on the horn, get them to you. We really are committed to professional development of the fleet and field. Our commandant, that's inform and learn is one of his lines of effort. It's one of his priorities. And we understand we have the best of the best here teaching, and we're known around the world for what we do. And we want to help.
Yeah.
We're here to help. We love our job, and we really want to get out there and help the others.
Do other services schools also have mobile training teams?
I will tell you, here in the United States, there are other areas around the military that do have mobile training teams in different areas like information operations, special warfare. Different schools, they do have mobile training capability. We've done pickup games for a long, long time. I remember back in the early 2000s, I was here as an instructor and I went to Argentina
Oh, wow.
to do a mobile training. and it was great. So it's been
Yeah.
kind of a pickup game until about 5 or 6 years ago, and then we made that commitment that we want to get the training out to the units.
Right. So if I'm understanding correctly, the mobile training team program as it currently exists only began 5 years ago, or has existed far before that?
Oh, it existed far before that, but I don't think we didn't have like one person dedicated to it.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happened in 2000 and what was that, 2020, is that was when they hired their first person to be the program manager.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was field grade officers typically who were running the program.
Wow.
And they really did about, I would say about 4 years prior to that, were really building up a lot of steam and a
Okay.
lot of interest. So they put in the hard work, and then I came in and just, I took the ball and just ran with it.
So it was kind of an additional duty before they had a dedicated person
Right,
assigned to
right.
it. Wow. Considering the amount of responsibility and everything
Yeah.
that goes into it,
Yeah.
that was quite the additional duty. As someone who's gone on an MTT, talk to us a little about some of your experiences and what that felt like and how that sort of event went for you.
Sure. What I love about it is, obviously the units out there are in need. They need to sharpen up a skill or just figure out a gap, right, and maybe their professional knowledge. But for me as an instructor, it's great because sure, I'm in here teaching writing or teaching photography every day, but getting out there to see how it's being done in the field, like our lesson plans use the latest and greatest scholarship to try and fill in the details and make sure that we're being accurate to best practices and things like that. But to actually see what's happening in the field is great and keeps me connected. So I love that I get to do that. I'm not only that, but I make connections with students and I tell them about other great things that are happening at DINFOS. I become a salesperson for this awesome school and keep their renewed interest in coming back to take other courses or things like that. So it's really a symbiotic relationship for me that I love, getting out of the classroom every now and then. I like my job, but it's great to go out there and see how people are doing things and keep myself sharpened for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you described basically how 3 different ways how units receive training. Can you kind of describe those and kind of tell me what goes into the decision about which way to go?
Well, first and foremost, we want to be good stewards of the taxpayer money and
Absolutely.
be as efficient and economical as we can with travel dollars. It's expensive to travel. So when a request comes in, we really do take a look at the topic, how it's typically taught, what is the best way to teach it. If it can be taught in a virtual setting, we're saving a lot of money, but getting the training out there. If it's a more hands-on type of training and maybe a 5-day kind of workshop where you want these students really focused on the training and not trying to do 10 things at once,
Yeah, right.
we want to get out there to them. So that's all done through planning meetings. We, when we let them know, hey, this is how many instructors we recommend. I do cost estimates for folks. This is how much it will cost. And then they make that determination. Oftentimes we'll do a hybrid where we can do some things in a virtual setting, but we really do need to get boots on the ground in that unit
Right.
to make sure that learning is actually happening.
Yeah.
So a lot of analysis goes into making sure we can get the training to them, be efficient with finances, but still get that training to where in a way that it should be taught.
Yeah.
We don't just want to willy-nilly do training.
No.
But we do understand that if that's the only way we can get training to folks, we're going to make it happen.
Right.
Whether it's working on a weekend with a National Guard unit or a reserve unit virtually, or potentially a different time zone. Like the one we did with the Defense Health Agency, we did 2 different events.
Wow.
We did one event to where it was the East Coast time or Central
Yeah,
time,
yeah, something like that.
and then we did an evening event so folks in Japan and other time zones could pipe in. So I guess everything that all of the answers are, it depends. We really want to be situational in how we plan the training for folks.
Okay, great. Well, we've actually got a question from the internet on YouTube, actually. So please leave us a comment on YouTube if you'd like to have your question asked on the air. Biff Bayberry writes about the fact that he teaches photography to high school students and asks if a mobile training team comes to an Air National Guard base near me, because I assume we support Air National Guard,
absolutely.
right? Is the forum appropriate for high school newbies and possible recruits? So I think he's talking about, could potentially high school students who are at a nearby Air National Guard base attend a mobile training team event with, I guess, the military members on the base. So it's like, hey, because many times Air National Guard bases will have like partnerships with local area schools, for some of their
We've done it here, yeah. We have
absolutely.
the high
So
school provider.
could that feasibly happen? Is that realistic?
Well, I've never had that situation before, so
So make a decision right now.
I cannot make a decision
Live.
right now. DINFOS is chartered to train the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
My number one client and my number one
Sure,
priority
right,
is
absolutely.
the Department of Defense. I have a tiered priority hierarchy
Right.
of how, when the requests come in to train the Department of Defense.
Right.
So on the surface, I don't know if the mobile training team is the right answer for that. However, what I will tell you is Pavilion is open source with a lot of our training.
Yeah.
And folks, high schoolers can absolutely get on Pavilion. I think
Absolutely.
we have that URL for folks in our show notes as well
Yeah.
as we can share.
Yeah, all the URLs we're talking about today will be on
Right.
the show notes for this episode.
But I will tell you, if we went and trained a National Guard unit, what I would encourage is they do local workshops with high schools, adopt-a schools, those kind of activities to get out there in the community.
Right.
I'm not chartered to train high schoolers. Pavilion is open to them, but I would encourage that unit to get out there and train them.
Sure. Theoretically, you can train members at an Air National Guard unit, and what they decide to do with that training is up
Right.
to them, right? Okay.
That's my best answer.
Very PA of you. I love the messaging.
No promises.
Well done. Well done. We have another question here from Trent Randolph, who asks, can Vim be taught virtually?
So Vim was taught virtually during the pandemic.
Okay.
I can't tell you that's a yes or a no.
Okay.
Because my job is to take Vim to folks around the world.
Right.
However, if they were interested in that, all they could do, the best they could do is contact me. I will socialize that, see if it's possible.
Yeah.
And then we'll give them an answer from that.
Yeah.
That is best taught in small group settings in person.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the curriculum that we can export via the mobile training team program, I wonder, is it limited to just things that we teach in the schoolhouse currently? Like, so if we have a lesson on research, planning, implementation, evaluation, right, that we teach in the PACS course, is it just those courses we currently teach? Or could a customer say, I want a lesson on a specific thing that you don't currently teach at the schoolhouse? Will you develop curriculum and teach it at my unit?
We do not create curriculum for mobile training.
Okay.
If there's something that needs to be taught here at the schoolhouse that's in DoD public affairs, folks need to really contact their folks at the Pentagon in the public affairs leadership.
Right.
And that comes down through what we call the Public Affairs Training and Education Council.
Sure.
That meets with DINFOS leadership. Those folks really are the people who hire us, if you will, to train the service members. They're the ones who
Right.
tell us what it is we need to teach.
Yeah.
We have the professionalism or the professionals to build that training. But as the mobile training program, we take the training we already have out there.
Right. So if somebody says, I want a lesson on AI and how to use AI for public affairs, you'd be like, we don't currently have a lesson on that.
Stand by is what I would tell them.
Stand by, right?
In the works.
But currently, right, we don't have that.
Right.
So you would say, we are not the entity that can provide you that training at this time.
Stand by.
Stand by. On that
That's what I would
same
tell
note, we do tailor training to
Yes.
specific units, or like, for instance, when we teach overseas, correct?
We absolutely do, and even with the writing course that Grant and them went to, what we like to do is to get the units to provide us with a scenario, something they're already working on, so that we can take that scenario and embed those in our lesson plans. We use a lot of the instructors are using their experiences, things they've already done out there in the fleet in the field, and bringing those and personalizing lesson plans. That's how we tailor that. We work on things Like, for example, if you want to talk about what we did for San Antonio, that would be great.
Well, yeah, because at the schoolhouse we have all the branches are here, so we try to have a variety of examples that we use throughout writing or photo or whatever it might be. But yeah, if we're going to come just see you for 5 days, let's make sure that we're getting right to the point. And so we would have them. San Antonio was a little more freeform. I had a few different branches in my little room over at Lackland, but I would say definitely the DISA, the time that we had one of the defense agencies over here, they came to us with exactly what they wanted to try and do, very specific internal communication mission they wanted to pull off, and so we got right into that and took the processes we already used and the Pride model and all that, but tailored it right to their problem.
Yeah.
I would also say we had an instructor working with a Navy unit, and one of the awesome things I like to do is we've done a few of these. So in the content developer side of DINFOS through Mass Communications Foundation course, Mass Communication Foundation course, right? They teach what's called the Pride process. So it's a design process, and it's. Can you want to spell that out for me?
Yeah, it's a problem. So identifying your problem, researching it, ideating, coming up with ideas, developing it, and then evaluating.
So we've taken that process, and we had a client say, we have this situation and we need to build a plan. We literally had an instructor walk them through the Pride process, but teaching them things along the way.
Okay.
And at the end of the week, they briefed their leadership with a plan.
Wow.
And the plan was to create a brand new logo for an exercise and attach a marketing strategy to it.
Wow.
To get it out there, which included infographics to identify the different parts of the logo, social media posts that they were going to do, a story they were going to do on it, a multimedia piece they were going to do on it. But they walked with an instructor through that process. And at the end of the week, they briefed the new logo, they briefed their plan, and the leadership loved it. And I've actually done that a couple of times.
Wow.
So we can take, maybe we've had units that are working on, they need to put together a comp plan or campaign plan for something.
Right.
And we have done a 5-day communication planning workshop, going through everything that we teach here through that process. And at the end, they briefed a strategy.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
So that's some of the things that we do because we already have that curriculum. But the scenario they're bringing, it's the actual practical exercise that they're doing throughout the workshop.
Wow. Okay. Well, it sounds like the build-up and development of an MTT is pretty extensive, right? You do a lot of work and research before it goes out. And actually, that ties to a question we have here from, hopefully I'm saying this right, J.C. Kreidel. He asks basically how long it takes for a mobile training team to agree to take on a training opportunity, and basically what goes into it before you actually execute it.
Can you repeat that again? Because I want to say hi to Jason.
Here's what how long does it normally take for the mobile training team to agree to take on a training opportunity? So you've gotten the request, how long does it take for you to agree to it? And on average, and then it sounds like a lot of research goes into it. So again, talk about that timeline from request to approval to development to execution.
So
what that time that looks like.
So a lot of times it could be a very short timeline, or could it be extensive because they have a big ask. So for example, the one I'm working on right now, we're working on again one of those Pride process kind of workshops, and then our instructors are potentially going to stay behind as they implement their plan, and then they get feedback. So that's taken a little bit more time because you have to build a schedule. I have to submit that through the different departments depending on what the subject is. So that is about a 90-day process.
Wow.
If someone is looking for us to come and speak about countering mis and disinformation at a workshop or a seminar or a symposium they're putting together, that can happen pretty quickly as long as our instructors are available during that timeline. So it could be as, we do ask that folks give us at least a 10-day window to respond and start to get the dialogue moving, because I'm an army of one here, and all of the research, the planning, I do that with the client by myself.
Wow.
If I need to bring in other subject matter experts because it's a field that I really don't feel like I'm the SME in, I'll bring in other folks. So I would say your best bet, if you can give me a 30-day window for maybe a symposium, maybe a 90-day window for something that we need to travel.
Right.
Of course, it'd be nice if we didn't have CRs all the time,
What's a
continuing
CR?
resolutions all the time. But 90 days is probably a good kind of throwing that dart on the wall.
Okay. Is that true also for international trips, or
No.
even longer for international? So
Sometimes,
180 days maybe, or a year?
sometimes even longer than that, depending
Wow.
on if I'm in the planning cycle. I am currently in working with the European Command with a bilateral exercise to a country over in Europe. And we have been part of the planning for 6 months. And we're not going until late winter, spring. So if they get us in on the planning phases, it could take, could be an 18-month process.
Wow.
But most of the time, it's about 6 months.
Okay, very good. So we're getting another question here from Matt, who asks, has the DINFOS and MTT worked with Army Division or Brigade Combat Team PAOs and their fellow staff members, such as commanders or their S staff, in preparation for things like the warfighter exercises or even deployments?
And we've done a few smaller units, though, for deployments.
Okay, very good. Very
However, give me a call.
good. Nothing's out of the question,
Nothing's
right?
out of the question.
Yes.
Yeah,
always
it doesn't
ask.
hurt to ask. So ask, Matt, and you shall maybe receive.
Go to
You
that.
never
Go to
know.
our webpage on the DINFOS website and send me an email. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have lots of meetings, so email is mostly better.
Indeed, absolutely. So earlier you were talking about Pavilion. Talk a little more about Pavilion and how MTTs and what you do kind of meld together and work together.
Well, I don't have an answer for that, but I would like, you and I have discussed that a lot, so I want you to start with that one.
Yeah, sure. So it's great. It's an online resource anyone can access. So I love having it whenever I go out and do an MTT, whether it's in the field or online. It's a nice little last slide to leave people with, like, hey, make sure that you're utilizing Pavilion. It's there. It's great. It's always being updated. Right now, they're going through a process to make sure everything is accurate and up to date and modern best practices. So it's continuously evolving and getting better. So I always like to hand that out. And even as an instructor, I've turned to it in a pinch where a student asks me a question and maybe my slides aren't doing a great job of explaining it to them. There's probably something on Pavilion that'll help me out, like another little tool I can at least send their way or pull it up and show it to everyone. So I love it. I'm always preaching about Pavilion.
Yeah, yeah.
So MTT, my role in the MTTs and Pavilion all kind of came to fruition about the same time, which is wonderful because I've worked hand in hand with the Pavilion team since since it launched. Actually, one of our first guests was the Pavilion champion, now retired Colonel Eric Simon. I want to give him a shout out. So we've worked hand in hand since the get-go. I keep track of what are people really searching up on Pavilion. I share once a month with them on what the big MTT asks are.
Right.
Where are the MTTs that we're doing? What are people asking for? And then getting DINFOS Live episodes onto Pavilion.
Yeah.
So I think the beauty of it is, I'm a hands-on learner. I like to talk, as you can't tell. And I want to talk to people about a subject. So if I go
Right.
on Pavilion and I'm really deep diving into some subjects, sometimes it's good to talk to a person. So what I encourage a lot of units to do, use Pavilion to do your training, but when you get to that point where you would like to have an instructor talk to your unit about it, that's how we can work hand in hand. Use Pavilion in your training plans, and then when you get to that point where you really need an instructor, give us a call. I'll also tell you that if you scroll down to the bottom on Pavilion, there's a link to get a hold of Mel and the mobile training team right on Pavilion. So
Nice.
that's beautiful. You can ask a question on Pavilion if there's something you don't see. And but I will tell you, I just want to I can't tell you a lot, but I would encourage people to keep an eye out for great things that are going to be coming with Pavilion over the next year or so.
Scoop.
Yeah, can't tell you, but stay tuned.
Awesome. That's great. Well, you mentioned Pavilion, and I think it's important, if you want to highlight this, that our audience can actually volunteer to submit articles and stuff to Pavilion, right?
Absolutely. Well, they can submit stuff. They can be subject matter experts on reviewing stuff. But we really, it's as a Department of Defense Public Affairs and Visual Information community, this is our platform. This is how we share training.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be involved because the more we use it, the longer we will be able to keep it around. But how many times are you out there, you're like, I need to know how to do this. And I want to look back, I want to reach back to DINFOS.
Yeah.
Do that. Keep that dialogue open. That's how we communicate and making sure we're getting the training out to the fleet in the field.
Yeah.
Don't just sit out there and say, oh, that was wrong. Oh, that's not how you should do that. Contact us. We are a tight-knit community and we need to work together and always network to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you handle all of the training that goes out of the schoolhouse. Do you have any involvement in training that comes into the schoolhouse? Because of course we as instructors need to be trained and need to have things and processes updated for us. Has there been anything like that where you've coordinated training for the instructors or the staff within the building?
I think in the earlier days of the mobile training, social media was still, I don't think it is as much now, but it was still really, people, they fear it. So I worked with Mr. Quande Hall, who used to be here, and I helped him, with some stuff. And he was he was actually our first guest on DINFOS Live.
I know,
Shout out to Quande. But I did help a little bit and working through social media and some of that stuff. But I also still teach. I am a trained DINFOS instructor. I teach in a pinch. I can be a substitute instructor if needed, because that keeps my instructor skills up to date. So I've had a few years in the public affairs community.
A little bit.
Yes, I have a little bit of experience.
Is there a particular lesson that you like to teach, your favorite lesson?
I actually like writing too.
All right, maybe I'll let you take one for my next iteration.
Maybe?
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
Do you trust me? No, I'm just kidding.
Is there a mobile training team assignment that you would love to have, like your dream MTT?
Tell you what, it's been a while since I was in Alaska, so if you're listening and you're in Alaska and you want any kind of training, make sure to mention me by name when you put in that MTT request, because I will be out there. I don't care if it's the middle of winter. I'll go
right.
Yeah.
I have been working with some units out in Alaska. It's just really expensive to get out there.
It is.
So we really want to get the training out with them. We are actually trying to figure something out with the Alaska National Guard.
Oh, wow.
But getting there, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
And, again, we want to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. So, but we know they need training, so we're working on it.
Well, although I'm not going to be here anymore, if there were any Hawaiian MTTs, I would have jumped on those.
I have 3 that I'm working on to Hawaii right now.
I'll do one of those too.
So let our audience know again,
Japan.
how can they request an MTT, Mel?
Again, I want to go back to the best place is to go to the DINFOS website, go under the academics tab, follow the mobile training link. It has my point of contact information. You don't know what you don't know unless you contact me.
Absolutely. Well, as we end this ultimate episode, I was about to say penultimate, but it's not. It's the ultimate final episode of DINFOS Live. Of course, I want to give you all the opportunity to kind of shout out or say your last things. What is there, as a good PAO, I have to ask, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I'd like to say thanks for having me on. It's a little bittersweet that my first time getting to be on DINFOS Live is also the last episode, but
saving the best for last.
There you go.
Yeah, of course. But honored to get to have come on, and anytime that I have an opportunity to talk about the mobile training team, I will. I love getting to be a part of it. Keeps me sharp. Mel is always letting me know when there's opportunities come up, and I'm telling my fellow instructors about it. Great way to develop themselves. So, like I said, if you're somewhere cool and you need an instructor, ask for me by name. I'll be out there. But thanks a lot for having us on here. I appreciate it.
Cool, in Alaska. I like that. Good one.
I want to go back. Alaska is so cool.
It is.
Well, for me, first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to you for taking over the ship and running with it until the last episode. But also just to congratulate you on your 25 plus year career. I can't just say Air Force because I know you got some other service in there, but congratulations, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. So definitely congratulations to that. That's point number one. Number two, please get a hold of me. I love what the training teams can do for the folks out there. I know coming up in the Navy, I wish I would have had them for my sailors out there training. I think it would have been great. But the last thing I'm going to say, you know it's coming, go Navy, beat Army.
Indeed, indeed.
You know it's coming.
That's right. The Army-Navy game is this weekend,
Yeah.
so we'll see how all that pans out.
This is live. You can't take it.
No, you can't. So you mentioned, obviously, I'm retiring, right? So it's been an awesome career. I've loved every minute of it, and I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to come back to the schoolhouse, to give back a little bit of my experience, and to contribute to this program, and ultimately, help contribute to the education of the entire PA community. It's been an awesome honor and a privilege to lead this show for you, and I've always tried to maintain the mission of the program every single episode, which is continuing education, because I think that's extremely important.
100%.
We should all be lifelong learners, never stop learning.
Absolutely.
I will never stop learning, even though I'm retiring in a few. But I do actually have another question here at the last minute.
You
may
go.
not know this, but Biff Bayberry again asks, is there any online community for PAO retirees outside of DINFOS? So any sort of DINFOS retiree alumni
I think
groups
there
that
are
you know
some
of?
alumni organizations out there. I would say hit us up on LinkedIn and get that dialogue on. But I do think that I know that some services have some alumni organizations. But definitely keep up with us on social media.
Yeah.
We're constantly putting things out. We had an amazing 60th anniversary alumni bash back in the summer, as DINFOS is 60 years old now. We
it's
look
pretty amazing.
good, don't we? We look good.
You
for
do look
60.
good for 60.
But we value that experience.
Yeah.
Many of those folks have maybe potentially left uniform and now they're working as civilians out there. You never know when that opportunity may arise for them to come back as a guest speaker or join us on another alumni event.
Yeah.
So I would, the best advice was to follow us up on social media and get involved with us out there. But also I will tell you, keep an eye out for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Every year we induct new members of DINFOS Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That message should be coming out soon to where you can nominate folks who are DINFOS graduates to come and be inducted in our Hall of Fame. We had an amazing class last year. And there's a lot of alumni that have gone on and done some great things.
Yeah,
Hello, Vice President-elect is a DINFOS grad,
Yeah.
Marine Corps correspondent.
Maybe we'll have him on the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there you
in the
go.
future.
Maybe he'll be in the Hall of Fame in the future. But we value their experience and their knowledge and keep staying involved with us here at the school.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And again, I know there's many different programs and groups out there, and many different public affairs groups. So, I'm sure if there aren't a specific DINFOS retiree group, there's going to be many other groups.
Right.
And if there doesn't exist one, hey, make one.
There you go.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'll join it. Sure.
But definitely keep us, keep us in your algorithm on the socials.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned the history and the 60th anniversary, and I think it bears mentioning that you didn't come to the Defense Information School for your initial training here at
Yes,
Fort
I did.
Meade.
Not at
here
Fort
at Fort
Meade.
Meade.
You had to throw my age out there, Major Murphy. I am a DINFOS Fort Benjamin Harrison grad.
Yeah. Fort Benji.
It was
Anyways,
great.
Yeah.
It was fun. But thank you for showing my age. I appreciate that.
Well, you're so experienced, right?
Yeah,
That just
I'm
goes to show your
experienced.
experience. Anyways, it's been an awesome time hanging out with you, Mel. Again, so glad
was
to
misinformation.
have had the opportunity to have you close out your baby. The DINFOS Live program. You're at the start of it. You're at the end of it. You closed it out, and it's again, like I said, an honor to steer this ship. And I'm really excited for what DINFOS will be doing in the future, because this because it's the end of DINFOS Live does not mean it's the end of the kind of productions and content that DINFOS is looking to put out there. So there will hopefully be something in the future. I don't know what it'll be. I'll be just as curious as everyone else here in the building in terms of what comes next. But again, I think this was an awesome time, an awesome forum, and we had a great time exploring some really interesting and in-depth issues. But like I said, as always at the end of every episode, DINFOS Live is not just a video show, it's also a podcast. So you can find it on your podcatcher of choice. Just search for DINFOS Live, and just because the show isn't going to be making any more new episodes doesn't mean the old episodes are going away. So you can always find these episodes in the archive. They'll be attached to Pavilion topics. They'll be on the podcasting services, so you can listen to them, watch them, all the different ways to engage with the content. And the content is still going to be relevant for quite a few years, I think, down the road, even as our industry changes and adapts and goes forward into the future. And again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this program, asking your questions, participating, be a part of this. If you've been a part of this for more than one episode, great, happy to have you on the program. But for everyone at the Defense Media Activity and the Defense Information School, I'm Major David J. Murphy. This has been DINFOS Live. See you later, everybody. Have a great one.